Today we're going to be looking at section 0.6 on percents. The first thing that we will do is start with the definition of a percent. A percent literally means per hundred, and it's indicated with a percent symbol. Percents are ratios of a number to 100. So it's really just creating a ratio of any number that you're looking at to 100. The first thing that we are going to look at is converting. If you start with a percent, the easiest way is to first convert it to a fraction. And you can convert it to a fraction by putting it over 100. So to convert from a percent to a fraction, you simply are going to put the fraction over 100. And that's because percents are comparing it with 100. Now, one thing that we want to do, though, is technically 32 over 100 would not be the final answer. You would also want to simplify, and you can do that in your calculator. If you use your fraction button, so you do 32 over 100 and you put it in as a fraction in your calculator, and then you just press enter or equals, it will simplify it for you. So you don't even have to use an operation in order to have the calculator simplify the fraction. You can just enter it in and it will spit it back out at you simplified. So this would be 8 over 25. It is easiest, though, to first, in order to convert it to a decimal, though, I think it is easiest to first change it from a percent to a decimal, and you can do that by dividing by 100. You can also think of it as moving the decimal 2 places to the right, but you can also, or I should say, sorry, that would be converting it from a decimal to a percent, 2 places to the left, or you can also just think of it as dividing by 100. Either way works. Okay, if you start with a fraction, the easiest way to convert it to a percent is to first change it to a decimal. So in order to change it to a decimal, you're just going to divide, and you get this in your calculator then. So 15 divided by 50 would be 0.30. 2 ways that you can change it to a percent. You can move the decimal 2 places to the right, or you can multiply by 100. Either way will get you to 30%. So let's go ahead and look at the table for example 2. This table has fractions, decimals, and percents. The easiest to change between, the easiest that you can convert between, are decimals and percent. So let's go ahead and start with that. To change from a decimal to a percent, to go from here to here, we will multiply by 100. So this would become 18%. This one would become 0.2%. If you also put it in the form of 0.2% and just left off the 0, that's still mathematically okay. So then if you are converting from a percent to a decimal and going this way, you're going to divide by 100. So this one would be 0.68, and this one would be 2.5. And if you wanted to write it as 2.50, that's fine as well. Either way is a-okay. For the fraction part, the easiest way to change it to a fraction is to take it from a percent to a fraction. So we know that percents are comparing numbers to 100. So we can just take each of the percents and put it over 100. From there, you can then just simplify the fraction. So you can just put each of these in your calculator as a fraction over 100. Now this last one, it actually would be a little bit easier probably to think of it like we did with our decimals in the last section. So this is in the tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. So this is the same as 2 thousandths, and it would be easier to simplify with that. So I'm going to just pause real quick or wait, sorry, I had to use a different app, so I can't pause the video. I'm sorry. So we're at 68 over 100, and we simplify to get 17 over 25. If we simplify 250 over 100 in our calculator, we get 5 over 2. 18 over 100 is 9 over 50. And this will simplify to 1 over 500. Okay, the last one, we want to change from a fraction to a decimal. Easiest way is to just divide. So if you take 3 divided by 5, you get 0.6. 1 divided by 20 is 0.05. To change from a decimal to a percent, you just multiply by 100. So this would be 60%, and this one would be 5%. Okay. The book has different ways of doing the next few problems that we look at. However, I think it is easiest if we do these problems using a few different rules that I will share. When we are looking at percent problems, the word is will mean equals. Of will mean to multiply. And whenever we use percents in these types of setups, we are going to write them as a decimal. So when you're using them in these problems and solving them, you will write them as a decimal. So for example 4, when we look at this one, we first want to find 75 is what percent of 300. So we are going to use the word is as equals. So we're going to have 75 equals, and then it says what percent. So I'm going to make that a variable. Just going to make it variable P. Of means to multiply. So I'm going to have times 300. Okay, and now I'm just going to solve this. So I can see that P is being multiplied by 300. So I'm just going to divide both sides by 300. So 75 divided by 300, I get 0.25. And because we want our answer to be as a percent, we're going to convert it to a percent by multiplying by 100. So I get 25%. Something else that you can do on these problems is just check if they are reasonable. Is it reasonable that 75 is 25% of 300? Yes. For B, 10 is 20% of what number? So you're going to have 10 is, you're going to put an equal sign. 20% will be 0.20. And then of means to multiply. And if you're trying to find what number, that can be your variable. We can just make it n. So to solve this one, I'm going to divide both sides by 0.20. So 10 divided by 0.20, I get 50. So n equals 50. When I look at this, 10 is 20% of 50. Very reasonable. What is, so that can be n, is will be equals 99% of 500. So I have my first percent here in this problem. So that's going to be 0.99 because we want to write the percents as a decimal. And of means to multiply. So we're going to multiply that with 550. This one already has the variable all by itself, so we don't have to undo anything. All we have to do on this one is take 0.99 times 550. And we get 544.5. Looking at D, It says find 85% of 170. So we're just going to take 0.85 times 170. And we get 144.5. For letter E, 90 is, we're going to write an equal sign. 125% will be written as 1.25. Remember, you can just divide by 100 to change it to a decimal. Of, we're going to multiply. And what number? We can just put the variable n. So I want to solve for n. So I'm going to divide both sides by 1.25. So 90 divided by 1.25, I get 72. So 90 is 125% of 72. That makes sense, because if it's 125%, it would have to be more. For F, 7 out of 8 represents what percentage? So if we want to just find 7 out of 8, we can just divide. So 7 divided by 8, we divide, we get 0.875. Let's change it to a percent by multiplying by 100. We get 87.5%. Okay, I'm going to stop the video just in case anyone needs, and just in case it needs to upload or anything else. I'm just doing it in a different way than I usually do. So I just don't want the video going too long without any errors. So I'm going to have the rest of the notes for this section uploaded in a separate video.